Hello, Ryan here, and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all of the news from the week just past. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get on with it. This week, Arena Commander is getting a huge overhaul. We learn more about many new missions coming to the persistent universe for all areas of the game, plus the official date for this year's CitizenCon is revealed. So this week's Inside Star Citizen was checking out all of the updates coming to Arena Commander in an upcoming patch sometime this year, plus meeting with members of the Arena Commander team who are responsible for these updates, many of which, like Mark Abent, Kirk Tomei, and Sean Tracy, people that we used to see a lot of and have kind of just disappeared for the time being, who have been working on this update themselves, who are actually part of this team. Now, Arena Commander is being worked on by this dedicated team full-time, and they will continue to improve and update Arena Commander and Star Marine with new content and features. Probably the biggest benefit of Arena Commander and Star Marine when these updates are in is to provide a location for players to test things and play certain scenarios without the risk of character death, which, as the death of a spaceman mechanic expands, will become far more important. I mean, already the annoyance of if you're flying around on a racetrack, you crash, you then have to go through the whole respawn system, get your ship, get to the location, try it out over and over again. It is not great for the sake of quick testing, whereas Arena Commander allows you to just quickly respawn and try again. So great to have a place where we can actually test this stuff without any consequences, but actually having no significance in the PU other than helping us learn better skills. Now, since they took Arena Commander work back from the Firesprite team, they have put together a plan for updating Arena Commander, leveraging all this new tech, all the new game modes and mechanics that we have in the PU to help maintain and improve Arena Commander fully. Arena Commander has become very stale, aside from maybe the updated maps and a few other aspects, but it still has some of the original systems implemented from when it was first developed, which was years ago. Flight modes, combat, PvP, FPS features are all very disconnected right now from the PU, and they say that it is imperative that Arena Commander is more akin to the PU. It's kind of a one-for-one match, but still known as a game within a game. Now, coming this year, they are replacing a lot of the old code and data with this new code so that they are then able to apply new features and quality of life updates, bringing it up to the PU quality. This, they say, is starting with the front-end menu, being the lobby, match connection, private matches as well are coming back, taking out all the legacy flash tech for the UI and replacing it with their new building block system. The first iteration will be to improve functionality, just making it easier to configure your ship, your character, and get into game much quicker and easier. Now, the ship loadout and customizer is getting a big revamp, making it more user-friendly and being able to see exactly what you want rather than what you don't want. And they really want players to be able to get together and play easily with friends or even strangers, and so, as they say, they're bringing back private matches. Now, they're also creating a lot of tools to allow the designers to create game modes and updates super quick to allow them to iterate on the game quickly. There are further improvements to the Dying Star map to make the environment more visible and less bright, and although these new updates coming to Arena Commander initially are all performance related, they will be quickly rolling out more exciting gameplay improvements soon afterwards. Now, in regards to racing in Arena Commander, they are bringing the exact replicas of the PU racetracks into Arena Commander so players can fully practice without, as I say, those pesky death issues. Racing in Arena Commander is probably one of the oldest game mechanics, and they have newly updated the new Horizon race maps, which they say actually uses the real Ellis system planet, being Green 3, where all these racetracks are located according to lore, which I do find very interesting. We can explore it a little bit, but obviously you're not going to get a good time in the race. But interesting to hear that they've developed a bit of Green 3, whether it's the Ellis system that they're working on in the background. I can't think so, but you never know. But this planet is very Earth-like, which means it has an atmosphere, has gravity, and they are now being affected by those two, so it should have a huge impact on the ship's racing ability a lot more. So all those times that we've all got for practicing, we're going to have to relearn it. They say that the process of taking persistent universe locations and bringing them as a full-on replica into Arena Commander is actually really quick and easy to do, and they are targeting 12 new racetracks, including the 3 new Horizon raceways. They are adding the new Jericho Station dogfighting map, and a lot of quality of life improvements and reworks to the underlying system to make more changes and improvements going forwards. Now this is all in the works now, and Arena Commander Updates will have its own independent patch notes so that we can follow along with all of the changes as they happen. But this, personally speaking, is really going to revitalise Arena Commander and Star Marine, and eventually Theatres of War as well. As can you imagine just rolling in Ghost Hollow or Whistler's Crypt and using it as a Theatres of War or Star Marine map? This will just provide endless content for the game mode that will help players and orgs to really hone their skills in the real persistent universe location without suffering from any of the server issues, permadeath, the party system, while those continue to get developed and refined. It was such a great idea, and talking of Theatres of War, Silo did actually address it over on Spectrum, saying that it has not been canned, it is still planned, but it is currently not in development. And last we did hear, Theatres of War was just waiting until they had improved performance and desync before rolling it out, as it would cause more harm than good. Now, before watching this episode, I wasn't actually overly hyped because I don't play Arena Commander. I had no interest in really playing it with it being so stale. After hearing all of these changes and updates, I am actually really stoked to see this come along. And with all of these in-game systems coming in like atmospheric flight, physical damage eventually as well, it is going to be so great to see this expand and seeing what else they can get in, like the fabled Take the Idris mission one day. Who knows? Anyway, a great episode. Very excited for the Arena Commander updates, but let us move on to Star Citizen Live. So this week's Star Citizen Live was with the Mission Feature Team, with the first question being, what does the Mission Feature Team do? Now this team not only helps make the missions, they also make technology to help other developers make the missions as well. For example, the time trial system, when they developed it to properly test it, they embedded it into the new missions, being these time trials themselves, as this was the best way to thoroughly test out the feature. Now this allows them to then take the working example of how they use it, and when they then hand that over to the content teams, they can see how they've been used and also add to or change how they want to use it. And for many teams, they are already using these mission features for new locations coming to the PU soon, like the new derelict locations and shanty towns, so just in a way rinse repeating the same missions we have, but with different locations. And then eventually, they will expand on them, and then this will eventually allow these other teams to work on expanding these missions rather than just bug fixing them. Now these mission features and systems have been created in a modular way, so they are able to be scattered into any environment really quickly while maintaining some decent diversity and, of course, reliability with bugs and whatnot. These are also all created to be used easily by the other dev teams so that they can take advantage of them and use them for whatever they need without having to constantly ask the Mission Features team for help. So the second question was in regards to 3.8 team time trials. What can you tell us? Now, as we all know, players have been racing at many of these locations in the verse for a long time, and in terms of like leaderboards and timing, in order to know who has got the quickest time, you kind of just had to trust their word on what they said in their videos. So adding a timer felt like a really good option so that the times can all be accurately tracked. And time trial races in general are very easy for an individual to just do in their own time without needing to rely on other people or have something that is heavily organised, which as we know can take a lot of time and effort and brain cells in the PU. They are also gathering a lot of data in regards to racing even through all of the PTU waves, and they will continue to balance that as the game waves expand and it goes live, just making sure that it's remaining challenging for the best players, but also fair for those who are struggling perhaps. Now the Orison platform missions is part of a push, they say, to branch these types of missions out to more locations. They are also looking into making dynamic events work with persistence, which they say is going to definitely be very interesting to see how it all unfolds, as obviously ships will remain behind, people will want to salvage them, loot them. So I personally am very excited to see how this affects things like Xeno Threat and Jump Town and whatnot, and as usual this is players creating missions for other players. Now the next question is, what is next for the mission feature team? They say they are currently working on investigation missions, which we heard about during CitizenCon, working closely with the narrative team, and they say it's going well. They have also been working on salvaging missions, which we can read a little bit about in the monthly reports. Basically, there are going to be 3 versions of these, a legal version, an illegal version, and kind of an open contract for anyone to take advantage of. Now, for the legal mission, For salvage, for example, you will buy the rights to a piece of salvage, in which once you've paid, you will get a lot number, and you can go fly to this safe location within proximity of a Lagrange point, which is where the salvage is said to have been towed to. And I also think it was mentioned in the monthly report that you will be protected by local security. For the illegal versions, a different company will provide you with the location of some illegal salvage where security will then show up after a limited amount of time. He did say an hour, but times, values, those sorts of things are always in flux, so we'll see what they settle on. But if you are there for too long, these forces will come in and then attack you. So you're kind of on a time limit there. I would assume if you're caught or spotted, you might get a crime stat. I don't know though, we'll have to see. But then there's these open missions, which for salvage specifically, an existing mission giver will be getting some attention now, who will let you know the location of where a huge battle took place, and there's a lot of debris that's been spawned in there for you to salvage, but you might find others there as well. So this could just be other vultures, maybe a reclaimer here and there, not bothering you, you get on, you're all there just salvaging. It could also involve some PvE, maybe an org there is like, right, this is ours, be gone. Or you could just find pirates wanting to come and pirate the location. So it will be very interesting to see what each mission holds and how it plays out, but something for everyone, be that more safe opportunities, more lucrative opportunities, or a challenge. And I would, if I was to guess at the mission giver, which is just a gesso, I don't know, I would say Geoff Zanelli from Lorville, who has a shop called Reclamation and Disposal. So it would make sense that it's him putting out this mission, but again, we don't know, we'll have to wait and see. I will be talking more about these missions and the ones involving mining and whatnot in my coverage of the PU monthly report, so do keep an eye out for that. Talking of which, the same kind of missions apply to mining as well, which they are calling the Resource Rush, where you are buying the rights to a location where there will be a cluster of an asteroid and a gas cloud with lots of spawned-in minables, and players can then go there, mine as much as they can, with similar opportunities as the salvaging missions, offering illegal, open, and legal. Now, the team are also planning a new classic multiplayer lap-based racing dynamic event where players compete with each other, which does sound very exciting, and this will hopefully involve 2 new ship tracks and a ground race as well, plus maybe limit these types of ships that can race there. Talking of ground races, I believe it was said that ground races were coming into these locations with racetracks. Now, bearing in mind these were leaked, so I'm assuming they're not coming in with 318. But if anyone has been doing proper ground races at these locations, please do let me know. But I do think that they're not actually applicable to this patch at this time. Maybe they were just getting set up for the future. Finally, there was also a Defend Your Ship update coming, where you have the right to actually defend your ship and not get a crime stat for when a player is trespassing on board. Now, this is certainly a big need, and having the right to kick people out of your ship, or at least shoot them when they won't leave. So, great to hear about that, but a great segment all round, talking a little bit about some very interesting updates coming to missions. And although there are plenty more the team can do to further improve and expand on the missions that we have and the mechanics we have, these new options for almost all areas of the game will certainly add a ton more fun to the burst. So very excited to see them roll out. Again, no dates, we don't know when they're coming, but great updates all round. Now, for the second half of Star Citizen Live, we spoke to Nick Elms, who is one of Chris Roberts' oldest friends, and his son Robbie, who both work for CIG. Now, Nick has been there for 10 years. I think Robbie has just celebrated his 9-year anniversary with working at CIG. So these are legacy developers. But Nick is the creative director for Flight in Squadron 42, and Robbie is the lead designer for the flight sections of Squadron 42. So very similar work paths. And this segment wasn't talking about Squadron itself. This was more of a casual chat with the two, rather than an in-depth discussion about Star Citizen. It was still a great chat, and I do highly recommend watching it, but there is no information to divulge about the project. But a fun fact is that Nick has actually known Chris for decades, more than 40, 50 years, and they actually went to primary school together, so that is a long time. Anyway, that was Star Citizen Live. Next week's Inside Star Citizen is a new Journey to 4.0 special edition with art director Ian Leyland, showing off the first look inside building interiors, which are these new modular creations to help populate all the various commercial buildings at landing zones with interior spaces for missions. So it's going to be a great episode. That really looking forward to checking that one out. But that was a great episode of Star Citizen Live. Let's move on. So also this week, the Galactopedia was updated with new entries on the Oritani system, Tanga system, the Drake Cutter and the Atlas platform. Both the Persistent Universe and Squadron 42 monthly reports were released as well. I have already covered the Squadron report, which I will link below, with my Persistent Universe report coverage coming next week. And finally, we now have the date for CitizenCon 2953, which is the first physical CitizenCon since COVID begun. This year, it will be held in Los Angeles, so picking up from where they left off, on the 21st of October. Now, there is no more information about CitizenCon at this time. We don't know the location exactly, but more information will come soon, I'm sure, and I certainly intend on going, so I'll hopefully see you all there. So that brings us to the end of the show. If you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Also, I am able to do this thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members. If you appreciate what I do and would like to help make it even better from as little as $1 a month, all of the links are provided below.